Welcome everyone to this webinar. This webinar is organized by the Pacific Islands Judicial Officers Association, or PIJOA. I am Justice Virgil Narakobi. I also work with Justice Wimala Sena in the recently established Judicial Committee for Judges' Well-being. I am your moderator for today. Just our outline of presentation for today. The session will be opened by the Acting Chief Justice, Justice Andeng Kandakasi, and then followed by 5 minutes presentation from each of the presenters, followed by a question and answer session. Then we will close off. The session will go until 1 p.m. So just a note on PIJOA for those of you who are not familiar with the organization. It's a newly established regional initiative. It marks an unprecedented and historic milestone in the Pacific region. It represents a collective effort to bring judicial officers from across the Pacific Island countries, including the judges. It came out from a shared vision to empower the region's judiciaries, and it looks ahead to a future where ethical, competent, and resilient judicial officers serve our people with independence, impartiality, integrity, propriety, equality, and diligence. And it is guided by the rich cultural, traditional, and linguistic heritage that unites our region. And PIJOA is committed to fostering collaboration, promoting judicial excellence, and advocating for judicial well-being, and creating meaningful spaces for knowledge sharing, training, and dialogue, which enhances membership benefits for all those who are involved. So today, the topic for our session today is judicial well-being, a matter of institutional responsibility, judicial culture, and ethical conduct. And we have a line of distinguished presenters who will enlighten us on the importance of the topic and what we can do within our respective responsibilities to ensure that we bring quality justice to our people. Now, let me also say that the international observance of the Judicial Well-being Day is of particular significance to the Pacific region. It is a gift from the Pacific to the global judicial community, and it has emerged from the Nauru Declaration on Judicial Well-being, and the subsequent efforts have led to its proclamation by the United Nations General Assembly. So this webinar provides an opportunity to reflect on the significance of this achievement and its relevance to the Pacific judiciaries. The theme of the webinar reflects the growing recognition that judicial well-being extends beyond individual resilience and self-care, and it encompasses the responsibility of judicial institutions to foster supportive workplace cultures, ethical leadership, and collegiality, and professional environments that enables us to excel in our work. It therefore gives me great pleasure to introduce the Acting Chief Justice to open this session. Acting Chief Justice needs no introduction. He's very familiar in our jurisdiction. But if I may have this short introduction, the Deputy Chief Justice, in a substantive role, is the founding president of the Pacific Islands Judicial Officers Association, and he also serves as president of the Asia Pacific Mediation Forum. He was a member of the drafting committee of the Nauru Declaration on Judicial Well-being. As president of PIJOA, he has championed greater regional cooperation among judges and judicial officers and the development of a Pacific platform through which unique judicial, cultural, and societal perspectives of the region can be shared. Acting Chief Justice Kandakasi will deliver our opening remarks now. Thank you, Acting Chief Justice.
Thank you, Justice Narakobi, for those introduction. Distinguished panelists from around the Pacific. The Pacific is covered. I'm very excited that is the case. Not only is the Pacific, but I understand from Rangajiva and the team that we have linking from right around the world. So the globe is on this discussion with us. So I welcome each one of those participants who have managed to find the time and energy to join us in this webinar. Esteemed members of the Pacific Island Judicial Officers Association, judges from across the Pacific and the world that are with us today, there are Chief Justice amongst us. I do welcome and acknowledge your presence. Chief Magistrates, I think the Chief Justice of Papua New Guinea, now Acting Governor General, may be with us down in the Bangor Court where the main participants are. So if he's amongst us, I do acknowledge his presence and he's gracing us with his presence. He was also a champion and a contributor to all the work that has led to the Judicial Wellness Declaration and subsequently the Wellness Day. I also acknowledge the presence of other distinguished and interested persons who have managed to join us on this first and inaugural webinar conducted or hosted by the Pacific Islands Judicial Officers Association. And I commend the team that has made this possible, led by Rangajiva, the Executive Officer, Olivia, and John Kerry at the PNGCJE, and the rest of the team that have put their efforts in. Each of you distinguished panelists, you have a lot of time pressure on your hand, but you've managed to spare time and to spare us your knowledge and skills and share with us. And in particular, Professor Zadek, thank you for joining us and being on the panel. Everybody's looking forward to hearing each of your contributions. It is a warm day in Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. So I present to you warm greetings from Papua New Guinea and welcome to the first of PIJOA, Pacific Island Judicial Officers Association's first webinar. Today is more than just the observance of an international day. It marks an important occasion, a milestone in the journey of judicial well-being for the Pacific. Many small Pacific Island countries perform their roles, fill the position of judges or judicial officers in their respective locations, sometimes unsupported. There's no other fellow judicial colleagues to support. And so having PIJOA as the platform for us to share our concerns, and Professor Zadek will be able to tell us the need for having company, colleagues, friends around to share what troubles that might be facing us, or just to have a quick chat so as to get us back to being normal humans and be in society. Otherwise, by reason of professional callings and the judicial role, we are secluded from everything in society. So PIJOA is that vehicle we should readily use, and we can think about what other programs we can bring on to bring the collegial spirit, Pacific working together going. The Judicial Wellness Agenda was first conceived and given birth to by the Pacific, where size and shape do not matter, but it is the intent, it is the willingness of identifying a problem and finding a solution. So a narrow declaration came through that kind of identification of a need. The subject of judicial well-being is been around since the day judicial or courts have been established all over the world, but not many have been openly talking about judicial well-being and judicial wellness. A healthy judge, a healthy judiciary is a healthy nation. And so we need to be able to have this conversation through these vehicles that we've had. I don't want to take more of the time. There is My pleasure to sit and hear from our respective panelists as to what is happening within your respective locations. In PNG, we've just had part of Wellness Day concluded with Professor Zadek taking part, presenting part of it. Second part will take place after this session. So I'd rather let you rest of the panelists speak, and I only say in a true Pacific way, we are in this together, and we'll champion changes that our region needs as a collegial spirit. That will then help us to better deliver on our respective commissions to our people in our respective jurisdictions, so we can be able to support one another, and we can be able to shoulder whatever the challenges that come our way. PNG is a bigger jurisdiction, and I'm happy to date with the support of the Chief Justice. We've been able to support some of PIJOA's program, and through that we will see some of you in Port Moresby next month on the issue of environmental rule of law, climate change that is very present and in us. That in itself gives rise to certain stresses and impacts on judicial wellness as well. So it's appropriate timing that we have this conversation on this subject, and I commend this webinar to everyone that has joined in, and I will safely say thank you so much, and I will drop off here, but meaning I'm still here with you, but I'd rather hear the rest of you speak about your specific situations and contribute to the discussion. Thank you, Justice Narokobi, and the rest of you.
Thank you, Acting Chief Justice, for those opening remarks and for the insights that you've shared. Now, we will, without further ado, we'll go straight to the program. Our first presenter is Justice Rangajiva Wimalasena. As a brief introduction to His Honor, he's a judge of the National and Supreme Courts of Papua New Guinea, and he's the coordinator of the Secretariat for Judicial Well-being in the PNG Judiciary. In 2024, he led a team of Chief Justices and senior judges from around the world in drafting the Nauru Declaration on Judicial Well-being. The proclamation of the International Day for Judicial Well-being by the United Nations was also one of those initiatives. Having served in several jurisdictions across the Pacific region and having promoted judicial well-being for over 10 years, His Honor will discuss the background to the Nauru Declaration on Judicial Well-being and the International Day for Judicial Well-being. So the issue that I have for His Honor to help us understand is the origins of the Nauru Declaration and the International Day for Judicial Well-being, together with the importance of recognizing judicial well-being as an institutional responsibility. Thank you, Justice Wimalasena.
Thank you, Justice Narakobi. I think, first of all, I say good morning to all of you and greet everybody else joining us from around the world. And also, we know that His Excellency, the Acting Governor General of Papua New Guinea, is also with us at the Bangkok courtroom. So let's join all of you when we are prepared to observe the second International Day for Judicial Well-being. And for the Pacific, I think this day has special meaning because the journey to its establishment began in our region. In 2024, a group of judges, chief justices, and other experts came together to draft a declaration on judicial well-being. And the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice of Papua New Guinea and the Chief Justice of Solomons, Chief Justice of Kiribati and Tuvalu, together with a lot of judges and experts from the Pacific as well as from around the world uh, embarked on this journey. And so on 25th of July in 2024, we were able to adopt the Nauru Declaration on Judicial Well-being. And I must also uh, uh, express my sincere gratitude to Mari Kushwa of the UNODC, who was the main support behind all these initiatives. And after the Nauru Declaration was adopted, we have realized that just having 7 principles would not uh, be sufficient for us to achieve what we wanted to achieve, to create a continuous dialogue, continuous conversation around the world about judicial well-being. So I made a proposal to the Republic of Nauru to submit a resolution to the United Nations, and I must acknowledge the remarkable support given by the uh, the Justice Minister for Nauru, Honorable Lionel Angimia. Uh, so uh, in March in 2025, we took it to the United Nations General Assembly. Honorable Minister Lionel Langimia moved the resolution, and with over 70 co-sponsors for the resolution, and with an overwhelming support from around the world, the United Nations adopted the resolution and declared the 25th of July, the day that we adopted the Nauru Declaration, as the International Day for Judicial Well-being. So, we are in fact on the eve of celebrating the International Judicial Well-being Day. And I must say that as Pacific countries, we should be proud of what our region has given to the world. The Declaration and the International Day show that our island nations can lead on issues affecting justice uh, for everyone, everywhere. And our contribution came from recognizing a neglected need and having the courage to respond. And we now understand that judicial well being cannot be left solely to the individual judges. Judges must care for their health, but the institutions must create conditions in which they can serve well. And that requires reasonable workloads, adequate judgment writing times, confidential support, fair leadership, collegiality, and a culture free from bullying, humiliation, exclusion, and favoritism. And why we are here today at this webinar is to talk about this um, truth about why we need institutional support to promote judicial well-being. So an ethical judicial culture does not emerge from rules alone. It is created by how judges lead, communicate, disagree, and care for one another. When institutions support well-being, they empower judges to deliver justice with resilience, independence, patience, and integrity. And everyone who comes before the courts will be then benefited. And Pacific Island Judicial Officers Association and every Pacific judiciary must now turn recognition into practice. And not only in the Pacific, but even in the other parts of the world. We have to put these principles into practice. And let us ask what more our institutions can do, what culture we are creating, and whether every judge can seek support safely and without stigma. The Pacific gave this day to the world. Let us now continue to give it meaning through practical action. And before I conclude, Justice Narakobi, I would like to wish all of you, everybody who's joining us from the Pacific and beyond, a very meaningful International Day for Judicial Well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Fimila Sena, and it's for sharing the history, the genesis of the day, and its importance to our work. It has, as you said rightly, it has been a remarkable journey. Now I turn to Principal Magistrate Elma Vina Rizu Hili to share some of her insights. Magistrate Hili is the principal magistrate. Is a principal magistrate. She's a judicial officer of the Solomon Islands, and brings to the panel the perspective and experience of serving within a Pacific Island judiciary. She's also a member of the Gender Committee of the Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association. Her contribution will assist in exploring judicial well-being from the perspective of magistrates and the realities faced by judicial officers in the region. What I would like Her Worship Magistrate Hili to share with us is the impact of judicial culture on women judicial officers and the institutional measures that can foster inclusive, respectful, and supportive judicial workspaces. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you, Justice Narakobi, for the kind introduction. Esteemed panelists and participants, hello, Keta, and greetings from the Solomon Islands. I am grateful indeed to PIJOA for this opportunity and honored to be part of the panel. And as introduced by the moderator, my name is Elma Vinarizu Hili, and I serve as a principal magistrate in the Magistrates Court of Solomon Islands. As we commemorate the International Day of Judicial Well-being, I would like to start off by saying that in the pursuit of justice and the rule of law, the well-being of judicial officers is essential for maintaining public trust and effective delivery of justice. Now, I will share my insights and highlight some critical issues drawn from my experience, not just as a magistrate, but a female magistrate in one of the busiest courts in the country. But firstly, I would like us to take a moment to consider what judicial well-being means to us personally. Now, traditionally, we will all understand and agree that judicial well-being have been centered around self-care practices and individual resilience strategies. Now, while these aspects are undeniably important, it is imperative that we assess judicial well-being through the lens of institutional responsibility, supportive judicial culture, and ethical conduct, which is the goal of today's discussion. Now, for the Magistrates Court in Solomon Islands, in brief, we will host a healthy lunch for our magistrates and all our staff to mark this day. We've started this initiative last year on the 25th of July. And for today in particular, we will establish a Magistrates Court Judicial Well-being Committee to spearhead activities aimed at promoting a healthy bench, reflecting on our belief that a healthy bench leads to an effective and efficient judicial service. Now, to provide context, currently we have 15 magistrates serving a population of over 800,000 Solomon Islanders, with half of it being female magistrates. This highlights disproportionate ratio, placing a tremendous societal expectation on us. There are a number of issues that we have faced as magistrates in general, but one of the pressing challenges we face in the Solomon Islands is inadequate infrastructure support. This includes high caseload volumes, limited office space, and other infrastructure, and also scarcity of courtrooms. Now, most magistrates manage an overwhelming number of cases, leading to long working hours and increased stress. Not enough time for our families. If this pressure is not managed or addressed, it can hinder our ability to deliver fair and timely justice, and it has undoubtedly done so. Now, working in shared office spaces or within limited courtrooms affects the performance, output, efficiency, and productivity of not only magistrates, but I believe all judicial officers. The other critical issue we are struggling with is inadequate remuneration and benefits, and it may be similar to other jurisdictions in the region as well. However, in our case, it has been 6 years since the terms and conditions for magistrates were last reviewed, and our salaries do not reflect the work we do. This really creates a sense of injustice for us as we serve justice. Now, if you've read on the news, just 2 days ago, our members of parliament received a 6% increase in salary, which is determined by an independent tribunal, the Parliamentary Entitlements Committee. And unfortunately, the situation is different for judges and magistrates in our jurisdiction. The review of our terms and conditions falls within the purview of the minister who's responsible for constitutional affairs, and in this case, the Prime Minister. And over the years, this process has been slow, unfortunately. The executive's control over the terms and conditions of the judiciary, being the third arm of government, really presents a dilemma for us. Now, our judiciary has been advocating for the establishment of an independent remuneration body to determine judges and magistrates' salaries and benefits. However, this issue remains unresolved, which is disheartening. So the delayed response to this matter has undoubtedly affected the quality of service for our judicial officers, as expected by our citizens. These are financial challenges which hinders our ability to serve our communities effectively. And many of us struggle to make ends meet on our current salaries, which I believe detrimentally affects our performance in court and our overall well-being. And I personally think that this should not have happened if there is a strong institutional support. Now, on a personal level, I have committed to maintaining a routine of fasting and exercise, which has significantly improved my mental health and productivity while navigating these challenges that I have alluded to earlier. In conclusion, as we navigate the complexities of justice and the rule of law, the mental and emotional health of our judicial officers, the magistrates and judges, is not only an individual concern, but I believe is also a vital institutional responsibility that must not be ignored. Because I believe that a healthy judiciary is foundational to a just society. And that's all I wanted to share with us this morning and afternoon. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Magistrate Healy, for being forthright and open about the issues that you confront in your work, and for sharing with the rest of your Pacific family and those who are participating in this webinar. Now, moving on, we will now hear from Justice Usaya Ratuvili from Fiji. Justice Ratuvili is a senior puisne judge of the High Court of Fiji and the current chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Fiji. He brings over 25 years of legal and judicial experience, including his service as Fiji's Chief Magistrate from 2011 to 2021. Justice Ratuvili will contribute a valuable Pacific perspective on the discussion on judicial leadership, institutional culture, and the importance of creating professional environments. So the question that I have for His Honor is if you could share with us the unique challenges faced by judicial officers in small island jurisdictions and the practical approaches to addressing those challenges within limited institutional environments. Thank you, Justice Ratuvili.
Thank you very much, Justice Narakobi, distinguished panelists, and the audience that's listening to us. Mbulavinaka from Suva. I've been asked to speak on the Fiji experience in terms of judicial well-being, a matter of institutional responsibility, judicial culture, and ethical conduct. Fiji was one of the signatories in Menon in Nauru on the day 2 years ago, on the 25th of July. Immediately upon our return to Fiji, we scheduled a meeting with our Chief Justice, Honorable Justice Salesi Temo. We briefed him on the Nauru Declaration and also the recognition of the importance of judicial well-being. His Lordship fully endorsed the Nauru Declaration and the 7 principles. Now, the question is, what are the key outcomes in terms of the Fiji judiciary? Since the Nauru Declaration was signed and endorsed by the Chief Justice, I can say that all subsequent judicial workshops, day 1 of those workshops is devoted to wellness. So medical staff are present. They conduct screenings, sugar, calorie, and blood pressure. Dietitians are on hand to give advice, proper diet and lifestyle choices. We also invite eminent speakers to address judicial officers on mental well-being. And incidentally, one of our presenters was Dr. Kali Shriver, one of our colleagues who was present with us in Nauru. Her intervention was really eye-opening because her research encompassed the bigger jurisdictions like Australia, New Zealand, and also in the States. And it was eye-opening and also reassuring that these bigger jurisdictions, they're also grappling with the same mental health challenges that we face out here in our small island states. So I can say that this is now an established part of the Judicial Department's training. And this is not only for judicial officers, but also for our support staff. I think this recognizes that judicial wellness is not only for the judicial officer sitting on the bench, it's also essential for the support staff who enable the smooth running of our different courts. I think you can't do one without the other. Now, just talking about contextually, the government of Fiji, under the auspices of the Ministry of Health and the Civil Service Ministry way back in 2011, instituted the policy of Civil Service Health and Wellness Policy. This was a clear policy directive. It stated every Wednesday afternoon from 2 p.m., all government departments, except for essential services, were required to release staff to play sports, engage in exercises, and as part of government's effort to combat non-communicable diseases, NCDs, and promote overall good health. I think my brother, Justice Wimala would have experienced that in his tenure in Fiji. Every Wednesday, the staff would be released to go and engage in these wellness activities. It has now gained such a prominence that in widespread acceptance that people refer to it as a Wellness Wednesday. So they understand for non-essential services, don't come to their offices on Wednesday afternoon because they'll be out doing their wellness activities. Now, in terms of the Judicial Department, they've been implementing this, and with the exception of a few judicial officers who are really active, it has mostly been the support staff, I can say that very honestly, who have been participating in the same. With the adoption of the Nauru Declaration on Judicial Wellness and Well-being, the department has now drafted a Wednesday wellness program. So it basically codifies and sets out the policy directives behind this. The overview is that we have a structured year-round program, staff well-being being the initiative of the Judicial Department, staff at all levels. This includes judicial officers. Program has 6 core well-being pillars, mainly physical health, mental health, social well-being, financial wellness. I think the principal magistrate has touched on that. That's a very important part of your overall wellness. So if finances are an issue, it's going to affect your work. Health education and staff engagement. They've designed activities which are designed to be inclusive, to be culturally appropriate, and to be responsive to the needs of the judicial staff at all levels. And this program, although it's mainly aimed at the support staff, registrars, court officers, and other court support staff, judicial officers are also encouraged to participate in the same. I myself, speaking for myself, I try as much as I can to switch off the computer, put on my training clothes, and do a short walk around the government buildings here in Suva and along the seawall on Wednesday wellness days. Unfortunately, this does not happen all the time, every week, but I try as much as I can not to schedule hearings or meetings on Wednesday afternoons. I think even if you're not out there being active, switch off from the files before you and just have a time for yourself. Like you say, self-care. So in conclusion, I can confidently state that when the seeds of the Nauru Declaration were planted in Fiji, I think it was planted on fertile and very receptive soil. The pillars of the declaration matched both the national government's policy as well as the Judicial Department's own policy initiatives, and looking at the holistic well-being of everyone employed in the Judicial Department, judicial officers, and other support staff. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Justice Sratuvili, for sharing with us the Fiji experience and the practical steps that have been taken at an institutional level to ensure the judicial well-being of our judicial officers. Now, our next presenter is Magistrate Tabora Williams. Magistrate Tabora Williams serves in the judiciary of Kiribati. She has been a long-standing advocate for judicial well-being and brings valuable experience from a small Pacific Island jurisdiction. She will contribute to the discussion on judicial culture, institutional support, and the particular challenges faced by judicial officers working within a close-knit island community. The question I have for our good magistrate is, what are some of the unique challenges faced by judicial officers serving in small island jurisdictions and the practical approaches that have been taken to address those challenges within the capacity that those jurisdictions have? Thank you. The floor is yours, Your Worship.
Thank you, Justice Narakobi, and to all esteemed panelists. Thank you for this chance for me to share the experience, especially for the small island jurisdictions. And there are countless challenges faced by judicial officers in small island jurisdictions. However, for today, I will be addressing a few unique, which we all have in common. Judicial officers in small island setting operate within communities where everyone knows everyone. This closeness, while culturally rich, brings its own pressures, such as constant visibility. This means that the judges are rarely off duty in the eyes of the public. Blurred boundaries where between personal and professional life can make impartiality harder to maintain. Another is isolation, with colleagues or mentor nearby, can leave officers without the support networks, which is most commonly in larger systems. And as also mentioned by Principal Magistrate previously, is the resource constraints, where well-being programs and institutional supports are often limited or even absent. Practical approaches to encounter such challenges. These challenges are not insurmountable. Judicial institutions can take practical steps to protect and strengthen well-being even within modest means. Building regional and remote support networks, connecting officers across island jurisdictions through technology. These networks foster mentorship, shared learning, and a sense of solidarity that counters isolation. Strengthening internal practices such as realistic workload management, flexible scheduling, and clear confidentiality safeguards help prevent burnout and protect professional integrity. Leadership also plays an important role, because when they openly prioritize well-being, they set a tone that encourages openness and care throughout the judiciary. Lastly, but not the least, public education. Public education about judicial roles helps citizens understand the boundaries that protect impartiality. When communities respect those boundaries, judicial officers can maintain both their well-being and their independence. By way of moving forward, embedding well-being into judicial culture is not optional, it is fundamental. For too long, the profession has been shaped by a tradition of stoicism, a belief that resilience means silence. But true resilience comes from openness and seeking support when needed. When well-being is recognized as integral to judicial independence, it becomes a shared value, not a private struggle. In conclusion, by expanding networks, strengthening institutional practices, engaging communities, and reshaping our culture, even small island jurisdictions can build courts that are not only fair and independent, but humane and resilient. Before I close off this discussion, I would like to leave you with these thoughts. Through practical approaches, judicial officers in small island jurisdictions can overcome unique challenges, build resilience, and strengthening justice within limited institutions environments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Magistrate Williams, for sharing with us your insights. You mentioned the word solidarity. It struck a chord with me, and I think the efforts of PIJOA is heading towards that direction to maintain solidarity in our shared experiences. Now, our next presenter, moving on as time is catching up on us fast, is Justice Professor Tafomalo Tolongata Leilani Tuala Warren. She will speak on her honor. Is Dean of Te Piringa Faculty of Law at the University of Waikato. She's the first Dean of Law of Pacific descent and the first woman to be appointed Professor of Law in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Professor Warren has had a distinguished career across academia, law reform, and the judiciary. She served as Samoa's first executive director of the Samoa Law Reform Commission, and in 2013 was appointed as Samoa's first family court and family violence court judge. In 2016, she was appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court of Samoa, becoming the second woman to hold that position. In 2025, she was appointed to the Waitangi Tribunal, which considers Treaty of Waitangi claims and supports reconciliation between Maori and New Zealand Crown. In 2026, she was appointed as a judge of the Kiribati Court of Appeal. We would like to hear from Her Honor the role of universities, legal education institutions, and other organizations in promoting judicial well-being, recognizing that judicial well-being is a broader societal issue extending beyond the judiciary itself. Kia ora, and we would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Kia ora, everyone. Thank you to our moderator and also President of PIJOA, Deputy Chief Justice Kenda Kasi. I'm very honored to be part of this webinar with such esteemed panelists to celebrate the International Day of Judicial Well-being. So thank you to my brother, Justice Wimalasena, for the invitation. So I guess all the panelists before me have already explored the issue of judicial well-being from a judicial perspective, covering a range of important angles. So I thought it might be helpful to offer a slightly different perspective, and that of a dean of a law school. My central proposition is a simple one. It is this: judicial well-being does not begin at judicial appointment. It begins in legal education. Because I think long before a lawyer takes the judicial oath, future judges are sitting in our lecture theatres, in our tutorial rooms, in our legal clinics. It is there that they first begin to understand not only what the law is, but what it means to serve it. And they develop their professional identity, their ethical compass, and their understanding of justice. This means that judicial well-being, of course, is not solely the responsibility of courts or judicial administrations. It is also an institutional responsibility of law schools. So as legal educators, we're not simply teaching legal doctrine. We are shaping the people who will one day exercise judicial power, resolve disputes, protect our rights, and uphold the rule of law. And if society expects judges to demonstrate wisdom, integrity, independence, compassion under immense pressure, then legal education must prepare them for these realities. We all know as judges that the Bangalore Principles of Judicial Conduct remind us that judges are expected to embody 6 fundamental values: independence, impartiality, integrity, propriety, equality, competence, and diligence. But there is an important question that sits behind those values. What enables judges to live those values consistently over the course of a long and demanding judicial career? Now, the answer, I suggest, is not simply technical legal knowledge or individual resilience. It is institutional support, ethical culture, and personal well-being, which have all been mentioned before. But I think this is why legal education matters. Because traditionally, law schools have excelled at developing intellectual rigor. We teach students to analyze cases, interpret legislation, construct persuasive legal arguments, and these skills remain fundamental. But legal practice, and particularly judicial office, is also profoundly human. because judges make decisions affecting liberty, families, livelihoods, and communities. They confront trauma, conflict, human suffering. They carry heavy caseloads while trying to maintain impartiality under constant public scrutiny. Yet legal education, I think, has often celebrated academic achievement while paying insufficient attention to the human dimensions of professional life. And we reward perfection, resilience, and relentless performance, but we rarely create space to discuss ethical stress, moral injury, emotional fatigue, or just the importance of sustaining one's well-being while serving others. So if we want future judges who can faithfully uphold these Bangalore principles throughout their careers, then we need to begin cultivating those capabilities from the first year of law school. And that means embedding well-being into professional formation rather than treating it as an optional support service. Students should engage with questions of professional identity, judicial ethics, decision-making under pressure, cognitive bias, trauma-informed justice, reflective practice, and self-awareness. These are not soft skills, these are essential judicial competencies. So how can law schools embed well-being? Well, firstly, it is integrating well-being into legal education. So we need to include topics such as mental health, resilience, stress management, emotional intelligence, ethical decision-making, work-life balance in the law curricula. We also need to prepare future judges and lawyers by teaching students about the psychological demands of judicial work, including decision fatigue, secondary trauma, public scrutiny, and maintaining impartiality under pressure. Thirdly, I think it's reducing stigma by encouraging open discussions about mental health within the legal profession and promoting help-seeking behavior. And this is where we need to constantly, as law schools, invite judges and lawyers to come and speak to our students about mental health and their own coping mechanisms. So our institutional responsibility extends beyond the curriculum. We must examine the culture that we create within our law schools. For example, do our assessment practices encourage unhealthy competition? Do we normalize exhaustion as a badge of honor? Do students feel psychologically safe to seek help? Do we model respectful disagreement, collegiality, and ethical leadership? The culture that is experienced by law students today often becomes the culture they carry into legal practice tomorrow, and for some, onto the bench. And the Nauru Declaration, which I must mention, reminds us that judicial well-being is a matter of institutional responsibility, judicial culture, and ethical conduct. And I would suggest that those principles also apply to legal education. And I think for us in the Pacific, this resonates particularly strongly. Our understanding of leadership has always been recognized that individual well-being is inseparable from the health of the institution and the community that we serve. Strong institutions are built by people who are supported, respected, and able to flourish. So I think if we're serious about strengthening judicial well-being, we can't wait until lawyers become judges. We must ask whether our law schools are preparing graduates not only to know the law, but also to carry its responsibilities with wisdom, balance, resilience, and humanity. So ultimately, I think investing in the well-being of law students is an investment in the future of the judiciary itself. Healthy judicial institutions begin with healthy legal education. And by nurturing capable, ethical, and resilient graduates today, we help ensure that tomorrow's judges are not only legally excellent, but also equipped to sustain the demanding and deeply human work of administering justice in accordance with the highest ideals of the Bangalore principles.
Thank
So
you
I
very
think
much.
in preparation for this webinar, I have had to take a long, hard look at the law school I serve, and we still have a long way to go in nurturing capable, ethical, and resilient law graduates. And somewhat embarrassing to acknowledge that we're not doing nearly enough to equip the lawyers and judges of tomorrow with the emotional intelligence, resilience, and well-being that they need to thrive in their professions. That said, I'm very grateful
Right.
for being
Thank
included
you.
in this webinar, and
Thank you.
it has compelled me to confront some hard truths and
Yes.
reflect honestly on where we need to do better.
I'm sure we'd love to hear more from you, Professor.
That was
Time
it,
is
finished.
catching up on us. Thank you very much for those
Thank you.
insights and the thesis that judicial well-being begins with legal education. Now we move on to Professor Joseph Sadek. He's a man of great accomplishment. He's a professor of psychiatry at Dalhousie University in Canada. He brings specialist expertise in mental health and well-being and will contribute a clinical and professional perspective to the discussion, including the impact of occupational stress and the importance of institutional approaches to supporting judicial officers. He has worked with judges from around the world on issues relating to judicial stress and mental well-being, and is a passionate advocate for the promotion of judicial well-being. We would love to hear from Professor Sadek on the impact of occupational stress on judges, the importance of recognizing psychological health within the judiciary, and practical measures that judicial institutions can adopt to better support judicial officers. I know, Professor, 5 minutes is not enough for you, but I'm sure you can give us the gist of your message to all of us that who are keenly looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justice Narkobi. I am very honored to be here with all of distinguished guests, Deputy Chief Justice, and great group of contributors. I think that my mission involves three parts. The first part is recognizing the mental illness itself. So what could be the symptoms or difficulties I could be struggling with? And that includes some general issues like, do I have some symptoms of low mood, depressed mood? Do I have symptoms of worry and anxiety? Am I experiencing stress and burnout where I feel exhausted, I am detached from others, I have sense of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment due to stress and burnout? Am I struggling with alcohol or drug use? So I think the first part that I feel is quite important here is understanding the different symptoms that I might be struggling with in my day-to-day life. The second issue that's important is the barriers to seeking help. And I can't stress enough that this is a worldwide problem everywhere. People are afraid of confidentiality, people are afraid of stigma, people are afraid of, that they are perceived as weak and that they have to be strong because we are judges, we have to be strong, and which means we shouldn't be seeking help from others because there's this culture of silence and being strong. Self-care, some people view self-care as luxury, and that's not really something I should be doing. So the list goes on, and we don't have time really to discuss, but that's one of my second important areas of focus, is to identify the barriers, why I am not getting the support I need or the help I need. Is it an issue relates to me? Is it my perception? Is it issue relates to my environment? What is it that's preventing me from getting help? And the third important issue is that we need to recognize that the wellness involve myself. It also involves relational wellness, so how I connect with others. And then the third involves institutional wellness, is that how is the institution and the system is functioning. And I think I'll stop here because those are major issues, but that I just opens a broader important elements for judicial well-being. Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you very much, Professor Sadek. You make the point that wellness involves ourselves, relationships, and the institution, and that's a very important message that we take on board. And unfortunately, time does not allow us to hear more from you. We now move on to our final presenter, Dr. Anne Pickering. She's an academic at the Australian Catholic University and is involved in research relating to judicial well-being in the Pacific. Her contribution will provide an academic and research perspective on understanding the experiences of judicial officers and the importance of evidence-based approaches to promoting judicial well-being. And she will enlighten us on the importance of evidence-based institutional approaches to judicial well-being, as well as the insights from the studies that she has conducted. Thank you, Dr. Pickering.
Thank you, Justice Narakobi. My greetings to Deputy Justice Kandakasi, distinguished panel members, and the audience. Greetings from Brisbane. It's my honor to be here today and to be able to contribute to this important discussion. I want to really quickly mention that Professor Tuala Warren, I really enjoyed your session and your thoughts. I have a lot of experience in this area. Perhaps we could have a conversation offline. Getting back to this session, I've been asked to focus on the importance of evidence-based institutional approaches to judicial well-being, insights from the Pacific Judicial Well-being Study, and the value of empirical research in informing policy and institutional reform. As a lawyer and an academic, my perspective on judicial well-being begins with a very simple proposition, and that is good policy should be informed by good evidence. We often recognize that judicial well-being matters, and we've heard that today in this session. But in terms of policy, evidence-based policy, meaningful institutional reform requires us to move beyond assumptions and anecdotal experiences. I think we need robust empirical data to understand what is actually shaping the experiences of judges. So then I come to the Pacific Judicial Well-being Study and the importance of that study. Just a quick clarification, the study is ongoing. Very soon we'll be sending out a survey link to judges in the Pacific to begin the survey process. It's being led by the Australian Catholic University with the support, and we are grateful. The project team is very grateful to the Pacific Justice Sector Program and the United Nations Development Program. The research seeks to provide an evidence base for institutional decision-making process across the Pacific region. The survey runs around 100 questions across 12 themes, and each theme captures a distinct part of judicial life. From workload and culture, we also will be looking at isolation, security, institutional support, quite a few topics that were covered in this session today. Each theme was also chosen deliberately because each speaks to a known factor shaping judicial mental health and resilience. So from a research perspective, this breadth is particularly important. I think it enables us to identify patterns and relationships that might otherwise remain invisible. And those are really important for the decision-making process. So for instance, we may find that judicial culture or organizational practices have a greater impact on well-being than we previously recognized. Or we might also find that certain institutional supports are particularly effective in promoting resilience. So these are the kinds of findings that can inform practical evidence-informed reform rather than relying on institution or tradition. So that's what we are promoting in terms of the judicial study that we are conducting at the moment. And all of these matter beyond any one individual. And I say that because supporting judicial well-being strengthens the judiciary's capacity to uphold the rule of law and serve the community effectively. And we've heard that today, other speakers confirming this. Well-being is also not a soft issue alongside real work of the courts, so to say. I think it's a precondition for public confidence in the rule of law. Again, there's a lot of research in this area as well. So this is where evidence-based research has its place. I think interventions, I mean, well-intentioned interventions are not a substitute for structural understanding. I think a study of this scale that we are conducting lets us to tell the difference between problems that are personal as well as idiosyncratic and problems that are systemic. So I think to be able to distinguish changes, what we should actually do about them. And I think that's the most important thing about evidence-based reform, evidence-based policy. So to very quickly mention, we hope that the study will provide a strong empirical foundation for future policy and institutional reform across the Pacific. And we hope that by understanding the realities of judicial work through this process of rigorous research, we can develop targeted interventions that support judges, strengthens judicial institutions, and also contribute to the judicial process. In conclusion, I also hope, like I said, a survey link will be sent to judges in the region. I hope that judges across the Pacific engage honestly with this survey because its value depends entirely on participation. And that when the findings return, I hope we treat them as a mandate for real institutional reform, not just an academic exercise from my end. So my final thought is that a well-supported judiciary is a foundation of fair outcomes, and evidence is how we build that foundation properly. So to leave you with that final thought, thank you very much again for having me here today.
Thank you, Dr. Pickering, for sharing with us the important work that you do in the research that is of practical relevance to the judiciary and to upholding the rule of law. We had hoped to have some time for question and answer. Unfortunately, time has caught up with us. We are now 9 minutes after the hour. So I will just give a short closing remarks. Initially, it was Justice Daryl Clark that was volunteered to that had been earmarked to give the closing remarks, but he is not available. So I've just perhaps we can just have one or two questions, and then we'll end our session. Um, we will end our session. Yeah, maybe since Professor Sadek was the shortest of the presenters, if there are any questions for Professor Sadek, it can be directed to him, so we can give him a bit more time to talk via answering one or two questions.
I think I have a question since maybe until somebody else asks. Professor Sadek, do you think that as judicial officers, judges, or magistrates, if we believe that we have an issue, is it a matter that we should actually keep it to ourselves, or as a psychiatrist, as a person who has been involved in supporting judges around the world, what should we do as judges if we think we have a problem, or if one of our colleagues tell us you should, go and see a doctor? What should we do?
Thank you for the question. I think this is a critical issue, and keeping things to ourselves doesn't resolve it. In some cases, it can get much worse. For example, if I start having suicidal thoughts and I keep that to myself, the thoughts can become bigger, and it can transform itself into intent, where I actually want to die, and a plan of how to kill myself. And so things like depression, over time, untreated depression can become more severe, and anxiety doesn't go away on its own. And so a lot of mental health problems are very treatable, highly responsive to treatment and medication. And the worst thing I can do to myself is to continue to live with it and struggle with it. So my suggestion is, if I feel there is something going on, then I need to seek help, and the sooner, the better.
Thank you, Professor Sadek. It's a big challenge. There are, apart from personal issues, there's also cultural barriers. So if someone who comes across that problem, it is important that they seek help, and apart from that, that the space is created for them to be able to get help.
In some judiciaries, some people were able to find help in not exactly in the same geographic area, and so this way they feel better about it. Although I don't think it matters, but at least they feel that they can talk to someone far away, and that they are okay doing that. So as a first step, if that's available, I think it's good.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a practical strategy to help those who are in that condition to find a confidential space to discuss their problems. All right, we'll take one more question before I give the closing remarks and our most informative session. Are there any more questions? If not, then we will end the webinar. All right, I think everyone's ready for lunch, so we'll end here. Let me end by thanking you all for the participants for your interest in the subject, and the presenters for the time that you have taken to share with us your expertise and experience The message that you have shared is vital to the work of the upholding of the rule of law. It is important for individual judicial officers as well as the supporting staff, and importantly for our families as well. Being a Pacific people, families occupy a central place in our well-being. So I thank you all for the time that you have taken, the preparations that have been made to participate in this. We acknowledge our judges, our acting Chief Justice, the acting Governor General, Gibbs Salika, and all the judges and all the participants from around the world who have taken an interest in this subject and have come on board to participate in this webinar. So the Nauru Declaration outlines 7 principles supporting judges across occupational, physical, social, cognitive, emotional, and spiritual domains, recognizing that judicial stress is not a weakness and encouraging help seeking. It promotes an ethical and inclusive judicial culture, ensures that both individual judges and judicial institutions share responsibility for well-being, creating working conditions conducive to healthy and sustainability, integrating well-being initiatives with judicial values, training and efficiency, and finally encouraging leadership to foster positive cultural messages about stress and wellness. And each of the presenters have addressed these principles, and I thank you all for that. Our appreciation also goes to PIJOA for taking this initiative and organizing this webinar. And I thank you all. And this now, unless there are any concluding remarks from Acting Chief Justice, then this will end our session for now. Thank you.
If that's an invitation for me to say one word, that is cooperation, sharing, caring. Together, we will become great officers delivering justice to all of our people. Help is around by sharing. This network has just been created. Let's continue the conversation, create a platform that will enable us to at least reach out. Picking on from Professor Sadek's comment, taking one of our problems to an external out of jurisdiction might help judges to come out and share whatever's affecting them. So ending on that note, PIJOA is the vehicle. We should be able to look at creating an avenue for judges in our region to reach out. Thinking aloud, and I commend all of you, and I hope from the conversations we've had, we'll go better informed to share and to care and to collaboratively work together with within the judges we have and within the region as judicial officers in the Pacific Village. Thank you.
Thank you.
And a meaningful International Day for Judicial Well-being to all.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Happy Judicial Well-being Day, everyone.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.